Welcome, Mary. Welcome. You're the first on my live. Glad to have you. Welcome, Femi. Mary, if you don't mind dropping a comment in the chat where you're joining from. My name is Dr. Dieter. I hold board certifications in two fields. I'm a board certified internist. I'm a board certified pediatrician. And I'm passionate about helping as many people to reclaim their health by talking about health issues in a simple educational way. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, the topic of our discussion today will be your gut imbalance, and how is the root of all diseases. So my plan today is to show you how there is a saying that we are what we eat. You know, what we eat really influences our health a lot. What you put in your mouth, food could be medicine or food can be poison. And when you don't put in the right food in your mouth, and it poisons you, it could lead to illness. So today I'm going to be talking to us about how, your gut, the health of your gut has a huge impact on what you do, on your health, the health of your gut. And I'm going to switch back and forth as I usually do. If you're just joining, from this screen where I am to this screen on the board. This screen on the board, when I'm on this screen, I'm gonna interact and do some teaching on the board. So the topic of our conversation today is your gut imbalance, how an unhealthy gut sits at the root of a lot of the diseases that we have. So I'm going to show you how what we eat influences the health of our gut, and how the health of our gut then plays a huge role into some of the diseases that we have. So I'm going to flip back and forth, as I say, back and forth, back and forth. So if you're just joining us, my name is Dr. Dieter. I'm doing this live from Fort Worth, Texas. I hold board certifications in two fields. I'm a board certified pediatrician. I'm a board certified internist. I'm passionate about teaching people through simple education how, the decisions they make, have an impact on their health. So today we'll be talking about your gut health. So I want to just start by throwing out my normal welcomes. If you're joining me from the Northeast, maybe you're joining from Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine. Maybe you're joining from New Hampshire, Rhode Island. If you hear your state, drop a shout out. Maybe you're joining from Vermont or New Jersey or Pennsylvania or New York. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Maybe you're in the Midwest and you're joining from Illinois. Maybe you're joining from Indiana, Michigan. Welcome, somebody joining us from Virginia. Great. Maybe you're joining us from Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa, Maryland in the house. Miss Sparkle, you are welcome. Maybe you're joining from Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, the Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota. You love the cold. You're in the Dakotas. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Maybe you're in the South. Maybe you're Delaware. Maybe you're Florida. Maybe you're Georgia. We already have Maryland in the house. Maybe you're the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. I want to welcome you guys to today's show. Virginia, West Virginia, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas. You are welcome. Our topic of conversation today is how your gut health is linked to many of the diseases that you face. David Trevor asked, Doctor of what? David, I am a double board certified internal medicine physician as well as a pediatrician. I hold board certifications in two fields, so that's my field of specialty. Thanks for asking. And lastly, if you're joining us from the West, maybe you're joining us from Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, maybe you're in Wyoming, Alaska, Oregon, Washington State, or you're joining us from Montana or Hawaii or California. You are welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. And today's topic of conversation is going to be our gut. How your gut influences most how your gut influences most of the health issues that you have. Now, I know that we also have an international audience, so maybe you're somewhere in the Middle East, maybe you're in the United Arab Emirates or Oman or Saudi Arabia or Egypt, welcome. Maybe you're in Europe, joining us from Europe, Belgium, maybe Finland, maybe the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Turkey, welcome. Maybe you're joining us from the Asian Pacific. Maybe you're in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Philippines. Maybe you're in Malaysia, New Zealand, Australia, welcome. Lastly, if you're joining us from any of the other countries in the Americas, maybe you're joining us from Puerto Rico, maybe you're joining us from Colombia, maybe you're joining us from Mexico, I want to welcome you. Let's get the show started. I want to start by asking you guys a question. How many of you guys have heard of the saying, we are what we eat? If you have heard of the saying, we are what you eat, feel free to drop a comment in the chat. You have heard of it. A second question I ask, have you ever heard of the saying, food is medicine? If you've ever heard of the saying, ever heard of it being said, food is medicine, drop a comment in the chat, food is medicine, you've heard. Or if you agree that food is medicine, drop a comment in the chat. In the same light, I want you guys to see it like this. In the same light that food is medicine, food could be poison. Do you agree? If food is medicine, in the same light that food is medicine, food can be poison. When we eat food, the first contact that food has with is the food has with our gut. So that food influences the health of our gut. So the foods we eat are either going to nourish our gut, or the foods we eat are either going to cause our gut to be unhealthy. And when our gut is unhealthy, it now causes us to have health issues that are related to an unhealthy gut. So I'm going to flip over right here, and go to the teaching board, and talk to you guys a little bit. But before I do, I want to put up the slide right here. You guys see this slide right here? This slide is what we call the microbiome of the gut, the microbiome. I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to explain to you what the microbiome is. It's part of our gut, a very important aspect of our gut. So that is the microbiome. Now, in our gut, you may not know it, but in our gut, we have bacteria that sits in our gut. That bacteria that sits in our gut is called the microbiome. So our gut is like this. Our gut looks like this. Okay. Now there is, I'll use a different color here. There is bacteria. They're about, in our gut, they're about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our gut. 30 to 100 trillion bacteria. And I'm gonna denote the bacteria with this purple color. So think about all this purple as bacteria that live in our gut. Now, this bacteria that live in our gut, this 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our gut, is called the microbiome. The microbiome. It's called the microbiome. And you may be wondering, this may be strange to you to hear, but God, our creator, designed this to be so, to put bacteria in our gut. They play a very important role in our gut health, a very, very important role. So the 30 to 100 trillion bacteria called the microbiome. Now, the role that they play, we exist in what we call a symbiotic relationship with them. Symbiotic simply means a benefit for benefit. So these bacteria that live in our gut, they are like our allies. They benefit from us, we benefit from them. Symbiotic. And the benefit that we give them, so it's like the situation of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So you do for me, I do for you. And what do we do for these bacteria that live in our gut? These bacteria that live in our gut, the primary thing that we do for them is we give them food and we give them shelter. So that's how we scratch their back, okay? We scratch their back by giving them food and giving them shelter. Now, you may ask me then that, Doc, what do these bacteria then do for us? Why are they in there? Remember I said there is a symbiotic relationship. The very first thing, so these bacteria help us do 5 different things. So what we do for them is we scratch their back, they scratch ours. How many of you guys like that arrangement? You do for me, I do for you. It's, no one is cheated. So what do they do for us? Number one, the very first thing that they do for us is that they help to break down fiber, okay? They help to break down food, fiber. I'll write it down here. They help to break down fiber. They consume fiber. I never knew this until about 2 years ago. Fiber is one of those foods. No, that's not true. Fiber is one of those foods. I knew this, but the concept did not, I did not put this concept into practice, having a notion of it. But this is what fiber is. Fiber is one of those carbohydrates. It's in the class of carbohydrates. But it's a special carbohydrate in the sense that humans do not have the enzymes to digest fibers. Just herbivores do, animals that God designed them to feed on herbs, like cows that graze or what have you, they can digest fiber. But as humans, we do not have, the enzymes to be able to digest fibers so that we can obtain calories from it. So you may ask yourself then, okay, well, if we're not able to really digest and obtain calories from fibers, then why in the heck did my parents say eat your vegetables? Have you ever heard of that said, eat your vegetables? Or have you told your kids eat your vegetables? If you have, drop a comment in the chat. Or have you heard it said, oh, veggies are good for you? Is that is that a concept you have heard? If so, drop a comment in the chat. So it's crazy that we have this talk, eat your vegetables, whereas we do not get any nutrition, we do not get any caloric value from vegetables, because vegetables are fiber, totally fiber. And it is the reason why is because man does not have the enzymes to digest and break it down. When we consume fiber, it actually passes through, the colon intact, and it is food to the microbiome. And you're going to see how important that is. It is food to the microbiome. So these bacteria that live in the gut, their chow is fiber. So it helps to break down fiber. And when it helps to break down fiber, it causes health of the bacteria. It causes the bacteria to be happy. Now, I want to say this because I'm on the point of fiber. Fiber is very, very important to the health of the microbiome because it is nutrition to the microbiome. Unfortunately, we do not, I will say this now and you will see how that plays into diseases later. Unfortunately, we do not consume enough fiber, right? And that plays into the health of the microbiome. And I'm going to explain to you guys a condition called dysbiosis or microbiome imbalance, and you understand what that is, and then you will see how important fiber is in playing in that. So fiber is food to the microbiome. Remember, we live in the scratch my back, I scratch yours relationship with this bacteria. What we do for them is we give them food and shelter. What they do for us is these 5 functions I'm enumerating. One of them is to break down fiber. I want you to think about it this way, and I'll repeat this down the road. Every living organism, whether it's a lion in the jungles of Africa or a bacteria that lives in your gut, needs nutrition, needs chow, needs food. And the food for the microbiome is fiber. So the second thing that the microbiome does, number 2, and number 2 is linked to number 3, it protects us from disease-causing bacteria. From disease-causing. And how it does this is by producing a very, I'll just link this to number 2 is linked to number 3. A very special fatty acid called short chain fatty acids. I'll just write it down like this: short chain fatty acid. Now, a short chain, I'm going to talk about this and link it to that. Now, a short chain fatty acid, it's a very special fatty acids, that we cannot get from anywhere else. We cannot get it from eating any foods or whatever. No. Short chain fatty acids are produced strictly by the microbiome. Short chain fatty acids are produced strictly by the bacteria in the gut, the microbiome. So you cannot get it from anywhere else except the microbiome, from anywhere else. So when the bacteria in the gut are doing what they're supposed to do, they'll produce these short chain fatty acids. And what these short chain fatty acids do is, these short chain fatty acids go and maintain the strength of the gut. I want you to think about it like that. The short chain fatty acids are security guards in the gut. Our gut, the cells of our gut are lined together like this, one cell to another. And think about my knuckles. Think about my knuckles right here as a tight junction, a checkpoint, so that stuff doesn't leak out. So I'm going to put it like this. So think about this to be a cell. Think about this to be a cell. And then the cell is connected to another cell like this, right at this place, called a tight junction. So those tight junctions, the security around the knuckle, the security around those tight junctions are maintained by these short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids goes and keeps this place very tight. It keeps it tight to maintain integrity and security of the gut. Now, by so doing, it protects things from leaking out of the gut. So just imagine, this place to be an area of the colon right here like that. Imagine that to be an area of the colon right there. Cell links to cell, cell links to cell, cell links to cell. So what happens is that this area here is called a tight junction. The short chain fatty acids that are produced only by the microbiome cause this security to be strong. Now, when you do not have a healthy microbiome and you do not have enough production of the short chain fatty acids, you now develop weaknesses in this area. And when you develop weaknesses in this area, the tightness of that junction becomes loose. Instead of it being like this, it now opens up a little bit like this. And that's not good, because when it opens up a little bit like this, you now have a situation where, instead of it being tight, it has now opened up. Because you don't have a healthy microbiome to produce short-chain fatty acids. You now have this area of leak right here. This area of leak right here, where bacteria can now seep out of the colon into the blood. So imagine this area all of a sudden becoming weak, where you have an opening like this. And that is no bueno. That is no bueno, because once, that tight junction doesn't look that tight anymore, bacteria is now going to seep out from the colon into the bloodstream. And it is not good. That's how the short-chain fatty acids protect us from bacteria. That's how the short-chain fatty acids protect us from disease-causing bacteria, by maintaining the strength of the gut. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that bacteria leaking out of the colon into the blood is no bueno. If you agree that that's no bueno, drop a comment, no bueno. So that's the third function that the microbiome does. Then the fourth function is that the microbiome helps us in the synthesis of vitamin B and vitamin K. These bacteria that live in the gut help in the synthesis of vitamin B and vitamin K. Now, those are important vitamins. Those are important vitamins for our metabolism, for our cells to work well and all of that. Vitamin K is very important in blood clotting factors, in making sure that we do not bleed, or in making sure that if we're bleeding, we could form a clot. So a lot of importance about vitamin K. Vitamin B also plays a huge role in our health. So these organisms in the gut help to do that. The very last function of the microbiome, is to train, and you may be surprised to hear this, is to train the immune system. I'm taking the approach of explaining the things the microbiome does for us first, before I explain to us what gut imbalance is. So it trains the immune system. And why is this important? Did you guys know, I'm going to switch over here just a little. I'll switch over here. Did you know that about 70% of the body's immune system resides in the gut? 70% of the immune system resides in the gut. And what that is that the remaining, what the implications of that, the remaining 30% of your immune system is in the bone marrow or the lymphatics, but 70% resides in the gut. So when you have an unhealthy gut, that unhealthy gut is gonna result in issues with your immune system. Our immune system trains, our gut trains the immune system. The microbiome trains the immune system. If you're just joining us, my name is Dr. Dieter. I'm talking to us how gut imbalance is the root of many of our chronic illnesses. So your gut trains the immune system. So when your gut is unhealthy, right? An unhealthy gut, or put it this way, healthy first. Let's take the healthy. When your gut is healthy, what your gut does is it gives the immune system a healthy training. It gives the immune system a healthy training. The healthy training you give the immune system looks like this. Hey, when you see so and so bacteria, that guy is a bad guy. I need you to pull out this bullet. I need you to pull out this AK-45 and take it out. It's a bad guy. He's no bueno. Take him out. And hey, when you see this other guy, be calm. That is part of the body. Those are cells that belong to the body. Do not harm them. That is not a foe or an enemy. You know, that guy is on our calm. Don't harm them. Don't shoot any bullets. Let them be, because that cell right there looks like us. It's part of us. That's how the immune system is trained in a healthy way when your gut is healthy. When your gut is not healthy, it trains the immune system to be hyperactive, to say, it's like shoot first, ask questions later, and that's not good. So what it does is that it tells the immune system, when you see so and so bad guy, you pull out this grenade, you pull out this AK-45, you pull out this bullet, you take them out. And then it trains the gut and say, when you see anybody that just looks like that bad guy, shoot him too. And that anybody that just looks like that bad guy may be a cell in the body, maybe a thyroid cell in the body, maybe a cell in your GI tract that is not really a bad guy, but just resembles the bad guy just a little bit. It said the immune system is now trained by the unhealthy gut. Hey, you see these bad guys, take them out. Also, if you see anything that just looks like a bad guy, even if you don't know for sure if it's a bad guy, take him out. And so by so doing, it causes the immune system to attack the body's cells. And when the immune system attacks the body's cells, then you have what we call autoimmune diseases. How many of you guys have heard of an autoimmune disease? You know, autoimmune disease, if you've heard of an autoimmune disease, or you have an autoimmune disease, or you know anybody with an autoimmune disease, drop a comment in the chat. An autoimmune disease is a disease that comes about when the body's immune system attacks the body's cells, you know, and then causes diseases. So something like lupus is an autoimmune disease. Something like MS, multiple sclerosis, is an autoimmune disease. Something like celiac disease is an autoimmune disease. Something like Crohn's disease, or ulcerative colitis, or Hashimoto thyroiditis, or even psoriasis. If any of these illnesses you've heard of, you know, or you suffer from, is an autoimmune disease, it's as a result of your gut not being healthy. Because your gut is not healthy, it has caused the immune system to attack, you know, to attack the cells of the body, resulting in these diseases. So that is the function of the microbiome. Now, you may ask me then what I want to now explain to you what is a microbiome dysfunction, gut imbalance. So let's go to that. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment in the chat. My name is Dr. Dieter. If you're just joining us, we're talking about how your gut is related to the illnesses you may have. Our gut, you must have heard it being said in the past that food is medicine. And food is medicine because if you don't eat the right thing and you have a poor gut, it influences, you know, the health of the health of your body. So what I want to do is to explain to you guys a concept called microbiome dysfunction, or dysbiosis, an unhealthy gut. Okay, and I'm going to flip back and go to this screen, and we'll talk. So right here, I told you that the organisms that live in the gut, this bacteria that live in the gut, there are about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in the gut, and they are called the microbiome. Now there is something called dysbiosis, microbiome dysfunction, or gut imbalance. In the layman terms, we're gonna say gut imbalance. You could call it microbiome dysfunction. Another name for it is dysbiosis. For the purpose of simplicity, just to make things easy, all of that big word, microbiome dysfunction, dysbiosis, is the same thing as gut imbalance. Now, what is gut imbalance, or what is dysbiosis, or what is microbiome dysfunction? You see, I said that in our gut there are 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our gut. 30 to 100 trillion bacteria. Those bacteria live in harmony with each other. I want to make sure that you guys are following me. If you're following me, please drop a comment in the chat, I follow. Those bacteria live in harmony with each other. Okay? Now, those bacteria are made up of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So they all live together. They're in equilibrium. You do not have one that's how they're supposed to. You do not have one that is higher than the other. They all live in equilibrium at the 50-50% concentration. Okay? Like that. Now, what happens is when we do not, what we call gut imbalance, if those bacteria live in a 50-50 population, gut imbalance is simply when the bad bacteria grow, proliferate, outnumber the good bacteria, and the good bacteria go down in number. So you go from a position of balance where you're supposed to have 50 to imbalance because the bad bacteria have outnumbered the good bacteria and the good bacteria is low. When you have that imbalance like that in the good and the bad bacteria, we say you have gut imbalance in simple layman's term, or we say you have microbiome dysfunction, the other name for it being dysbiosis, when you have any of those things. Now, that is no bueno, because when you have gut imbalance, all of these functions that I mentioned now become compromised. These functions become compromised and it now leads to disease. Now, what causes the imbalance, you may ask? It's always good to understand, how a problem came about to be able to understand how to fix the problem. So they were living in harmony, and all of a sudden, one day the bad guys decide to throw a party, outnumber the good guys, and kick the good guys out. How did that happen? Remember I told you guys that the food for the microbiome is fiber? That fiber is one of those foods that we do not digest. It passes through the colon intact because it's food for these organisms, the bacteria in our gut, right? And I said this, that every living organism, every living creature, whether it's a lion in the jungle of Africa or a bacteria in your gut, as long as it's a living entity, it requires nutrients, to survive. So these bacteria in the gut, they need fiber. They need fiber to survive. Fiber. Now, unfortunately, in our day and age, our foods are so devoid of fiber. We're eating so much processed and ultra-processed foods, that have little to no fiber in there. Okay, so what we eat, is depriving this bacteria of their food. And when there is a shortage of fiber to the bacteria in the gut, you know what happens? Anytime there's a scarcity and shortage of food, it sets into motion survival of the fittest, And by survival of the fittest, the stronger bacteria, that is the bad bacteria, in that survival of the fetus mode, they hoard the food. The little fiber that is available as food, they want to hoard that. And for them to be able to hoard that, it makes sense for them to have a higher number. So they want to hoard that food, they proliferate and outnumber the good bacteria so that they can hoard that food, because there is strength in numbers, right? If, let's say, two camps were gonna go to war, and one camp comes with 1,000 troops, and the other camp comes with 10 troops, who is gonna win that war, that battle? Most likely the camp that has 1,000 troops compared to the camp that has 10 troops. So that's what happens in the microbiome. When the food is short, when there's a shortage of food, the bad bacteria that are stronger want to hoard the food as much as possible. So in order for them to hoard that food as much as possible in the survival of the fetus, they're gonna grow in number. When they grow in number, they overcome or outpower the good bacteria, and there's that imbalance. And that is not good. That imbalance, as I say, is no bueno, because it now compromises all these functions of the cell. We do not consume enough fibers. Our food is so devoid of fiber. If you agree with me that we consume a lot of processed foods, drop a comment in the chat, processed. If you agree with me that we do not consume enough fiber, drop a comment in the chat, fiber. You see, the NIH recommends this. The NIH recommends this. If you are a man, right? If you're a man, let me do this in another color. If you're a man, the NIH recommends that you need to consume at least 38 grams of fiber a day. 38 grams of fiber a day. If you're a man, 38 grams. If you're a woman, the NIH says that you need to consume at least 25 grams of fiber a day. So we men and women need to be consuming at least anywhere from, and this is the lower end, it's talking about at least. We men and women need to be consuming anywhere from 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. But according to the same NIH data, the average man and woman in the US, hear this? The average man and woman in the US consumes 10 to 12 grams of fiber a day. That is less than 50% of the required dietary intake. Less than 50%, which is resulting in a poor gut. And when you have a poor gut, that poor gut will result in diseases. Now, I'm going to switch over and show you. So that's what gut imbalance is. Gut imbalance is a situation where the bad bacteria have proliferated, outnumbered the good bacteria, hoarding all the food, and there's an imbalance. That imbalance now compromises all of this. When it compromises all of this, it now results in some diseases. I'm going to now show you a slide of I'm going to show you a slide of some of the diseases that we have when you have gut imbalance. Now, this is a slide that shows, and unfortunately, I wish I could say that this slide is exhaustive. Can you give us an example how realistically get the amount a day? Great question, Faith in me. Faith, I don't know where you're joining from. Faith, I don't know where you're joining from. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're joining from. I'll say this. The simplest way to do this, Faith, is to go online and look up foods that are rich in fiber. That's the first thing I want you to do. go online and say, give me a long, or you could use ChatGTP. I think ChatGTP is more superior to Google in this sense. Say, give me a long list of the foods in my area that are rich in fiber, and give me the quantity of fiber they contain. Like, for example, an apple has 4 grams of fiber. I never knew this, but popcorn is very rich in fiber, you know. So go through ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT to make you a list, you know, of foods that are rich in fiber that are in your area, you know, and giving the grams of fiber they each have. ChatGPT can give you that list, you know. Okay, lentils has this amount of fiber, apple has this amount of fiber, you know, a cabbage salad has this amount of fiber. It will tell you that, and then you can use that depending on where you are, your locality. You could now use that to now plan your day around. Okay, I need to take in this amount of fiber, you know, I can eat these foods, I can eat that food. And one of the easiest ways, I say this, so that's a little bit more focused, but one of the easiest ways to be able to achieve that is to eat whole foods. That's one of the easiest ways. Feed me a realistic example to get the amount you need a day is not to eat anything that your great grandmother will not recognize. If you're about to eat something that is 100% coming from a plant or 100% coming from an animal. That's the simplest thing. If you're about to eat a tortilla chip and you cannot answer the question, is my great grandmother gonna recognize this tortilla chip as food? If she's not gonna recognize that tortilla food as that tortilla chips as food, do not eat it. You know, that is devoid of fiber. If you're about to eat an apple, you know, and your great grandmother will recognize this as food, is good for you. So just two simple things you can do just by avoiding any foods that your great descendants will not recognize them to be foods today. Avoiding those things is gonna help with your gut microbiome, you know, and researching, going online and looking at a list on Google or ChatGPT or any AI tool that you use to say, please come up with a list of all the fiber-rich foods in my locality, because I don't know where you are. You may be in the Caribbean, in North Carolina, what have you. It may be, you know, it may be different what is available. And so that's why I asked you, Faith Me, where you were joining from. Okay, you're in North Carolina. Great, North Carolina. You could just Google the foods that are rich in fiber in North Carolina, and you know, it will help you make a list, and make sure you ask it to give you the amount of fiber in each, so that, you know, when you're meal planning, you could take into consideration those things to be able to get that amount of fiber in your diet. So now when you now have dysbiosis, I was gonna ask you, Faith Me, where in North Carolina are you? I trained in North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina from 2010 until 2021. So just curious where in North Carolina you are. So when you have dysbiosis, this is what happens. It causes you to have all these illnesses, you know, irritable bowel syndrome, MS, which is near Raleigh. Okay, that's great. Wonderful. I lived in Durham for 2 years and then moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, and lived in Wilmington for about 5 years or so. Prior to that, I lived in Greenville, North Carolina. So I know the Raleigh area well. So that is MS. This is a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth syndrome. Celiac type 2 diabetes is also linked to a poor gut. Anxiety and depression. How many of you guys are surprised that anxiety, how many of you guys will it surprise you to know that anxiety and depression are linked to a poor gut? If it will surprise you to know that anxiety and depression are linked to a poor gut, drop a comment in the chat, surprise. As I will say this, I myself, as a physician, unfortunately, there are a lot of things that they did not teach us in medical school. They did not teach us things about how your gut, is very important in your health. This was foreign information to me when I learned this 2 years ago. And when I learned 2 years ago that, a poor gut could cause anxiety and depression, I was surprised as a physician. But after learning the cause of why anxiety and depression are related to a poor gut, it made sense. Let me say this. Did you know that the hormone called serotonin. Serotonin is the happy hormone, the neurotransmitter. That helps to secure our mood. Serotonin. Did you know that 90%? I need to go to the board and write this down because that is so profound. Did you know that 90%, 90% of that hormone is produced in the gut? 90% of, I'm going to erase this right here. 90% of the hormone serotonin. Some people call it a hormone, some people call it a neurotransmitter. This hormone or neurotransmitter sits at the center of maintaining mood. When you have this hormone in low quantities, it causes anxiety, it causes depression. And because 90% of it is produced in the gut and the other 10% is produced in the central nervous system, when you have a poor gut imbalance right here, the factory is down. If you have a factory that normally is supposed to produce, let's say, 20,000 tons of steel every month, and all of a sudden, the west wing and the east wing of that factory goes down. If the west wing and the east wing of that factory goes down, there's no way that factory is going to be able to produce 20,000 tons of steel that month. If the gut is responsible for producing 90% of the body's serotonin, and there is gut imbalance, dysbiosis, the factory has been taken out. There is no way that the gut is going to produce that amount of serotonin to maintain mood. And so that's why having gut imbalance, dysbiosis, causes people to have anxiety and depression. So everything in the body is connected. Science is beautiful, guys, because when you understand how your body works, it makes a huge difference, in what you need to do to fix it. I want to use an analogy here. I'll put this back up. I'm going to use an analogy here shortly, that one of my colleagues who's a physician recently taught me. So these are issues that you will have from having a poor gut. Lupus, Hashimoto, asthma, chronic fatigue syndrome. This is becoming more and more prevalent. Heart disease, even colon cancer. If any of these diseases you suffer from, or you know somebody who suffers from, drop a comment in the chat and put whatever disease that is. And I'll tell you guys this, that unfortunately, this list is not self-exhaustive. It's not self-help. There are many more diseases. There are many more diseases that as a result of a poor gut health that are not listed on here. So I want to give you guys, share something here. The decisions we make in our lives impact our health. The decisions we make in our lives impact our health. It's about principles. You cannot go against science. If I were to take this pen and let it fall down, like I let it go, gravity is gonna pull it down. That's just a principle, that gravity is going to pull it down. There is something I call principles in life and laws in life. One of the principles, that I'm trying to get to you guys is that food is medicine. That is a principle. At the same time, food is poison. That is a principle. A principle is something that is natural, very natural. If you go against it, you're gonna have consequences. You cannot escape that. It's different from a law. You can go against a law and you don't have the consequences because the law has to be enforced. So let's say I'm driving like Slim Shady, 90 on the freeway. The law is that, the speed limit on that freeway should be 70, but I'm going 90. That's the law. So two things can happen here. I can go 90 on the freeway and not get pulled over because there's no cop on the road at that time, shooting his radar at me to pick me up. So even though I have violated the law, I haven't faced consequences, right? So there is, that is totally different with principles. And the principle I'm trying to teach you guys is that food is medicine or food is poison. If you violate that principle, there will always be consequences. And the consequences of violating the principle of your gut health, not taking care of your gut health, are these issues that you can face. So, what I want you guys to understand is that our decisions impact what we do. Our decisions impact our health. The foods we put in our mouths impact our health. And when your health is impacted in a positive way, you remain healthy. When your health is impacted in a negative way because of the foods you put into your system, you get this. One thing I'm going to end I'm going to wrap this up now, but what I want you guys to understand is that fiber is very important for the microbiome. Very, very important. Unfortunately, our consumption of fiber is not great. And if you begin consuming enough fiber, whatever issues that you are facing, that related to this will get better. And that can also protect you. Let's say you don't have any of these issues and you're eating poorly, a lot of processed foods. It's only a matter of time. If you don't have any issues, it's only a matter of time that you will. Because remember the difference between a law and a principle. A principle, when you do something, you cannot escape that effect. That's a principle. If you do not feed your gut right, it's a matter of time, your gut health is going to come back to haunt you. So, are fiber supplements bad for you? Actually, they are not. They are not bad for you at all. And I want to talk to you, Faith, about a fiber supplement, because you asked the question that how do you get fiber, some practical ways to get fiber into your diet. And I answered that question. So there are many people who will not be able to meal plan. There are many people who will not be able to, go research and say, okay, now I know this is the kind of fiber food in my locality. I'm going to make sure I eat this every day. There's some people whose lives are so busy. So Faith, I'm glad you asked that question. If your life is very busy and you cannot every day put in that fiber into your diet all the time, the easiest thing to do is to take a supplement. I take a supplement myself. As a physician, as a doctor, yes, I consume fiber. Yes, I consume fiber in my diet, but there's sometimes that life is so busy with career, with family, with kids, that I'm not able to do those meal plannings. And so what I have done is I simply take a fiber supplement every day. And this fiber supplement has become one of the favorite things that I take every day to make sure that I keep my fiber intake at least 38 grams for a man. So I've been taking this fiber intake now for the last 5 months, and it's helping me to be able to take in the amount of fiber that I need to take so that my gut remains healthy. So Faith in me, absolutely, fiber supplements are good for you. Now, what's in this sachet? This sachet contains fiber from 5 different plants. 5 different plants, that, and it comes in the powder form. The way I take it, I put it in a bottle of water. I wish I could demonstrate to you guys. I just put it in a bottle of water and mix it. I'll demonstrate to you guys. One quick second. Let me grab a bottle of water and I'll be back. I'll demonstrate to you. I take this simply. I take this 2 times a day, and it helps to nourish my gut. And I'm going to place a link in the chat, as to, a link where you can get this same fiber supplement that I'm on. I've been taking it now for about a little over 4 months, and I've seen the differences made in me, and I've decided that I'm going to be on it as a supplement for the rest of my life to prevent me from having any of the gut imbalance issues. And you can do the same too. There's also a link in my bio on it. So give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a bottle, show you how to take it. Very simple. Okay, I'm back. So this bottle right here, I fill this bottle to about 8 ounces of water, and this is the fiber supplement that I've been taking every day to help with my gut. So I'm happy you asked the question, Faith in me, because fiber supplements are great for you. You need to have the right one though. This is made up of soluble and insoluble fiber. Not all fiber supplements are created the same. There's some good ones, there's some bad ones, or there are some not so good ones. So this is the one I use, and I like it quite a bit. Okay. All right, so it has powder in it, and what I do is I just empty the sachet into this bottle like this. Okay, and then after emptying it in this bottle, all I do is I shake it. And then after I shake it, I drink it. And I usually drink it all at once. They say it's good to consume fiber before your meal. When you consume fiber before your meal, what it does is it goes and cushions your blood sugar. It also goes and causes your body to start producing satiety hormones, GLP-1, so you don't overeat. So I usually take this before a meal, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm taking it now. And you just drink it. And that's it. And that's it. Drinking it like that. Drinking it like that. That's it. I consume maybe 2 bottles of this a day, and it helps get the fiber in me that I need to get. So feeding me or anyone else, if you guys are interested in this fiber supplement, which is something that I have found to be very useful for me, the link which I mentioned right up there is a link that you could use. I'll put it back in here. What I am, let's see, and that's the link. You could just copy and paste that in any browser, and you'll be able to get it. I could also show you another way that you can get it if you go to my profile. If you go to my TikTok profile, right in my TikTok profile, once you get to my TikTok profile, you're going to see a link right here on my TikTok profile. This link right here on my TikTok profile. If you click this link right there, it will take you to the company that makes and sells this fiber. You can get it directly from the company that makes and sells this fiber. All right. When you go here, the company that makes and sells this fiber, oh, sorry, I needed to have flipped my screen for you to see. All right, so if you go to my profile link, all you need to do, I have 2 links in my profile link. I have this link and I have a YouTube link. When you click on the links, it will show you 2 links. The first link is the link where you can get the product. The other link is my YouTube channel where I talk about a lot of the health issues I'm talking about. But the first link is the link to click. So if you click on that link, what that will do is that will take you to the page of the company, that makes and sells this product. And all you need to do is just to hit the buy now option. When you hit the buy now option, it actually takes you to the page where the product has already been selected for you. The product has already been selected for you. All you need to do is you hit add to cart. When you hit add to cart, it's now gonna take you to this area where it says checkout. And all you need to do is to hit checkout, enter your information, and you should be able to check out. So that's it. If you have any issues, if you're interested in trying that supplement and you have any issues using the link or what have you, please send me a direct message. I'll be happy to help you, maneuver the manufacturer's page to be able to get it. But those are for people whose lives are too busy. They're not able to get enough fiber into their diet. But I understand it's not everybody that's like that. There's some people who are very disciplined and may be able to structure their lives in such a way that they can consume fiber. If that kind of person is you, please go on Google or whatever AI tool that you use. Put in that Google or AI tool that you use. Can you give me a list of all the foods that are rich in fiber as well as the grams of fiber they contain? You take that list and now meal plan around that. You should be able to get as much fiber through that list. Thank you guys for joining. My name is Dr. Dieter, and I do this to help as many people through simple education to be able to understand, how their health is related to decisions they make. And I want to truly help as many people to reclaim their health. I hope to see you guys on my next live. Thank you. Bye.